She struggled with physical defense she's faced at the professional level and voiced frustration with the league's officiating, recently telling reporters, quote, "I feel like I'm getting hammered and everybody is physical with me, and opponents get away with things that other people don't get away with." That's what Caitlin Clark said, that it was a cheap shot. It was not a basketball play. She should have been ejected.
Caitlin Clark was assaulted yesterday in her very first playoff game in the WNBA. We've seen the animus directed at Caitlin Clark all year. It reached a boiling point yesterday.
Connecticut Sun players are facing serious criticism for their treatment of Caitlin Clark during the playoff games. It's refreshing to see that some voices in the WNBA recognize what's happening. Let's be clear, the referees and league officials seemed oblivious as Clark took some hard hits. In both games, two Sun players went after her with moves that felt more like wrestling than basketball. Think dramatic takedowns. Yet, shockingly, not one foul was called. No whistle, no comment from the officials, and barely a mention of it on the ESPN broadcast.
There was no real discussion of it on the ESPN broadcast.
It seems like everyone in charge just completely overlooked the rules when it comes to Caitlin. If you missed the chaos, get ready. What you're about to hear will truly surprise you.
ESPN wrote a story after the game that did not mention that the biggest star in the history of the WNBA, the first woman to ever be the biggest star in American sports, was assaulted 2 minutes into the game on a dirty play with one of these women with these long fake fingernails that stabbed her in the eye.
In Game 2 of the playoffs, the Indiana Fever jumped ahead with an impressive 13-4 lead, and leading the way was the incredible Caitlin Clark. In just the first quarter, she was on fire, racking up 6 points, 4 rebounds, and 3 assists in a matter of minutes. She was simply unstoppable, dominating the game like she always does. But the Sun had other ideas. Specifically, Jonquil Jones was determined to shut Clark down by any means necessary. At one point, when Clark went for one of her signature deep three-pointers that gets the crowd buzzing, Bonner made sure Clark had no space to land. This wasn't just a simple bump. It was as if Bonner thought, if I can't outplay her, I'll just take her out. Meanwhile, the refs didn't react at all, remaining completely still as if nothing was wrong. Still, Clark and her coach took it all in stride.
You know, when you're in it, it's hard to just take a second to just look and enjoy it. You know, we're always looking for that edge, looking for that next, whatever we need to do to have these guys ready. We want to make sure they're prepared.
No foul, no whistle, just a rude welcome to the WNBA playoffs. You could sense the tension on the court rising. Clark and Bonner exchanged some heated words, and when Clark finally gave Bonner a shove, still no call was made. How many times does a player have to be hit before someone steps in? The craziest part? Bonner's aggression seemed to give her teammates the green light to get dirty. With the refs turning a blind eye, it was like a free-for-all against Clark. The Suns' game plan was clear: disrupt her mentally and physically, whatever it took. Bonner set the tone, and her teammates quickly joined in, using every trick in the book to try to stop Caitlin Clark.
Clark, 3 to shoot. Gonna have to hoist from the logo. An air ball. And Clark wanted a foul. Felt like Bonner ran into her. But a shot clock violation.
The Fever may have started strong, but by the end of the first quarter, they were trailing 17-14. What happened? The Connecticut Sun turned the game into a physical matchup, focusing on Clark while the refs conveniently ignored it. Bonner, with just 2 points and 3 rebounds, caused more trouble by getting into Clark's head. That's all the Sun needed: throw Clark off her game, disrupt her rhythm, and suddenly the momentum shifted in their favor.
Is this the final game of Caitlin Clark's rookie season? Wait, that's the question you want to ask me right now? That's it? Mm-hmm. You know what? They're going to have to dig deep. We might get a couple 30 pieces, but no, this is not Caitlin Clark's last game. We get more Indiana Fever basketball.
Okay.
Bonner's physical play wasn't just reckless. It was a smart strategy. She understood that if the Sun couldn't disrupt Clark's flow, they were in trouble. The plan was clear: make the game as tough and gritty as possible for her. And this wasn't the first time such antics occurred. Let's rewind to September 22nd, 2024. That day marked a tough moment for Caitlin Clark. Not because she wasn't ready. She was more than prepared, leading her team like the MVP she is. But no amount of talent could brace her for what happened next. Enter DiJonai Carrington, charging in like a wrecking ball, deciding that the best defense meant going after Clark's eye.
It's DiJonai Carrington stabbed Caitlin Clark with her fingernails right in the eye. There was no foul call. There was no real discussion of it on the ESPN broadcast.
It wasn't just a minor accident. It was a full-on poke to the eye from Carrington that left Clark with a black eye for the rest of the game. We're talking about Caitlin Clark, one of the league's brightest stars, literally seeing stars on the court.
Caitlin Clark's trying to pass the ball in the first 2 minutes of the game, and this woman swats at the basketball and somehow decides to turn her hand down and her fingernails and jab them right into the eye of Caitlin Clark. No foul call. No refs stopping the game to go look. Is this a flagrant?
And once again, the refs seemed completely oblivious, missing the entire incident. No foul, no reaction, just silence. Are we really expected to think they didn't notice that clear assault? Carrington wasn't subtle at all. She aimed right for Clark's eye, almost like it was part of a twisted game plan. And of course, it worked.
The first woman to ever be the biggest star in American sports was assaulted 2 minutes into the game on a dirty play with one of these women with these long fake fingernails that stabbed her in the eye. Do you think that had any impact on the game?
Clark's performance was clearly affected. Who wouldn't be distracted with a half-functioning eye while trying to lead her team? Meanwhile, Carrington walks away as if nothing happened. Now, let's address the absurd claims that Clark and her fans are being discriminatory because of her race. What we should really focus on is the actual discrimination happening on the court. Clark faces rough play every game, yet her opponents escape without any penalties. Carrington's eye poke is a prime example. If it had been anyone else, the refs would have blown the whistle instantly. But because it's Clark, it's as if they think it's acceptable for her to take these hits. This isn't just bias. It's discrimination happening right in front of us, and no one in charge seems to care. The hypocrisy is astounding. If Clark shows even a hint of frustration, she gets hit with a technical foul faster than you can blink. But when Carrington and Bonner body check her or poke her, it's met with silence. It feels like there are two sets of rules in this league, one for Clark and another for everyone else. And this isn't just a one-time issue. It's been a pattern all season. Clark is being targeted by both players and officials, and it's gone beyond frustrating. It's simply ridiculous.
Do you think that your meal ticket should be stabbed in the eye intentionally on the court 2 minutes into the game, and there's no problem here?
The real question is, how is any of this fair? Clark is expected to play through injuries and dirty tactics while maintaining her composure, all while her opponents can use every trick in the book, including eye pokes, without facing any consequences. She's one of the WNBA's top players, yet she's treated like she has to earn basic protection on the court. It's a complete joke, and it's time to call it out for what it is: targeted discrimination against one of the league's brightest stars. Despite all this, Caitlin Clark came into Game 2 of the 2024 WNBA playoffs ready to prove herself, and she did not disappoint. She was everywhere, racking up 25 points, 9 assists, and 6 rebounds, essentially running the show on her own. But let's be real, one player can only do so much. It was clear from the start that Clark wasn't just impressive, she was essential. Without her, the Indiana Fever wouldn't have stood a chance. Yet even with those standout numbers, the reality was hard to ignore. She can't carry the whole team forever. It felt like she was playing 1 against 5 out there.
You know, these are icons, players that young people, including Caitlin Clark, watched growing up, that helped evolve and refine the game.
By the time the third quarter rolled around, Clark was doing everything she could to keep the Fever in the game. She pushed the tempo, found open teammates, and made big shots. But how far can one player carry a team when support is minimal? Aaliyah Boston stepped up, scoring 16 points and grabbing an impressive 19 rebounds, which looks great on paper. You'd think those numbers would lead to a win, but beyond Clark and Boston, there was little help. Kelsey Mitchell added 17 points, but when it really mattered, she struggled to score, missing a crucial three-pointer with less than a minute left. That's the issue. It's not just about putting up points, it's about making the right shots at the right time. Mitchell's missed three with 45 seconds remaining was a momentum killer. Indiana had fought hard to get back into the game, trailing by just a few points, and that shot could have turned everything around. But when it hit the rim, instead of going in, it was game over. The Connecticut Sun seized the opportunity and took control. In the end, this game was a showdown between one player trying to do it all and a well-coordinated team on the other side. Clark gave it her all. She was incredible, but no one player can win a game alone.
You got to really take care of your body and prioritize that, and nobody's here to babysit you. Like, you're a professional, like, this is your job, like, you better figure it out and do it yourself. So I think that's something that, as my career continues to go down the line, it's something you're going to have to, take a little more pride in probably, and, probably won't feel young for forever, so.
The Sun didn't depend on just one star. They shared the responsibility. Bonner made key shots, including a crucial dagger, while Thomas kept everything running smoothly. On the other hand, the Fever were counting on Clark to work miracles, but even she has her limits. One player can't win a game alone, and Game 2 made that painfully clear.